All right, English 9. This is what happened today, Wednesday, the 12th of March. We had new seats. Yay, I know you're so excited. I always love watching you walk in and get confused. So, anyway, here was your entry task for today. Of course, you know your entry task document is in Google Classroom under the entry task heading dated for the week. Today is Wednesday. So, you were supposed to write about what do you plan to claim in your essay? Do you plan to claim that standard IQ tests do not sufficiently test the kinds of intelligences that people need? That's what I recommend along those lines, because the pieces that we have read have supported that, and I'm not so sure you'll be able to support other things. So there you go. We have that. Put that into a sentence in your own words, and write down 3 kinds of intelligences that you think should be tested. What kind of information might you use in your bridge? I have some sentence frames for you. I plan to claim that intelligence tests should test what and what. What kinds of intelligences do you think are important? I don't know, kinesthetic and mechanical. Come up with some things. In addition to academic intelligence, to succeed in this world, people can't rely on just, musical intelligence or academic intelligence, but rather need to know about fixing cars. Blank intelligence helps people to be able to something or another, and blank intelligence helps people to do something else. In my bridge, I might mention the smart people that I know who have not been as successful as expected, as well as the people the world expected to fail that did not. So that's your entry task. From there, we went on to finishing the things in Study Sync in class. It's 7 questions. So I gave 7 minutes. I'll come back to this, but you should be able to go into Study Sync through Clever and the McGraw-Hill, and then you're going to see the Study Sync tab. I've got 3 or 4 of them. You have other textbooks, and Google is taking its time. And so while it's taking its time, okay, it's almost there. There we go. Click the Study Sync logo. Yours should pop up on this, just like this, but if I click this, it takes me to people's assignment. So I'm going to just show you what that looks like in your Google, in whatever. So yesterday, Tuesday, Mr. Pugh taught the class, and he covered this particular article, the point counterpoint. So in class, you guys read this article, and he has a page, but you can do it here. You can annotate whatever you need to do with that if you weren't here. And then we're doing the quiz, not the think questions. You do not have to do the think questions, but there are 10 questions, and I guess I discussed a lot of this yesterday. So you should go through and answer all of the 10 questions here. So that was a 7-minute activity. Moving on, let me find where I went. All right, so today, other than that, is writing an original, strong, clear claim. We looked at the student exemplar. This is the introduction. So this person's hook is, imagine sitting down to take an intelligence test, and the ancient Greek hero Odysseus sits at the desk next to you. That's your hook. Remember, the green is the bridge. And then we have this person's thesis statement, which is, the ideal intelligence test should assess the skills that help people reach their potential, such as dedication and the courage to be creative. And we talked about the ideal intelligence test assesses these other things, not just academic intelligence. Body paragraph 1 is going to be about dedication and contain the quotes pertaining to that. And body paragraph 2 is going to be about the courage to be creative, and the quotes are going to align to that. So after taking a look at this, we had a little bit of think time. Hopefully we will become a little bit more finely tuned than this, but if all else fails, get something down on paper. Intelligence tests should include natural intelligence or intrapersonal or mathematical or something along these lines, or the ability to fix cars. We can put it into different words if you have some ideas down there. And I know that you have ideas about what intelligence tests should test. So hopefully you can do that. Here is where you're going to put that information. There is a Google form that looks like this in Google Classroom. So if you go into Google Classroom, if I can get there, there we go, home. I have an extra page that pops up in there somehow. I don't know why. And go to, I don't know, whichever class, Google Classroom, go to classwork. It says thesis statement. It's right here. And it's due today. So if you click here, you'll see a Google form, sign in, and you should be able to hand in your thesis statement right there. And the form looks like this. So again, you're going to type your last name, your first name, tell me what class period you're in, and type your complete thesis statement. Intelligence tests should include 2 kinds of intelligences that you think should be included. From here, we went, let's see, did that. Okay. From here, we went back into Google Classroom because I wanted to address another article. We went back into this tab, the more argumentative readings on kinds of intelligences. I know it says it's due yesterday, but we didn't finish. We talked about Senora X no more. We have done From the Lost Letters of Frederick Douglass, and now we are on Georgia O'Keeffe. So I skipped down here. You can read about her if you want. We took some notes from this video. I'm going to go ahead and play the video, and you can take some notes.
A canvas drenched in sunset hues, colors radiating like flame. At first glance, this painting may appear to be an impossible abstract image, but a closer look reveals the tender stems, lush petals, and velvety texture of a canna lily. This metamorphosis of natural subjects into abstract geometry is commonplace in the work of Georgia O'Keeffe, the revolutionary American painter and sculptor. But the magic behind this transformation remains just as elusive as the artist herself. Born in Wisconsin in 1887, O'Keeffe spent her childhood plucking wildflowers and arranging fruits to paint. At 17, she moved to Chicago to study at the prestigious Art Institute. Her teachers trained her to faithfully reproduce reality in the conventions of European masters. Although she enjoyed the solitude and precision of this work, O'Keeffe felt little personal connection to it. After moving to New York, she was increasingly drawn to the clean lines, striking composition, and vivid colors of Japanese art. O'Keeffe soon found a teacher whose lessons inspired her to put those interests into practice. Unlike her previous teachers, Arthur Wesley Dow urged his students to focus on more abstract representations of light, shape, and color. These lessons manifested in O'Keeffe's first series of abstract drawings. Rendered in charcoal, they present a series of undulating lines, bold shading, and billowing clouds. These drawings defy easy classification, suggesting but never quite matching any specific natural reference. Earlier European painters in the Cubist tradition had employed rigid geometry to abstract external subjects. But here, O'Keeffe employed the shapes and rhythms of nature to capture her internal feelings. Experiments like these would soon become a cornerstone of an artistic movement called American Modernism. Although no single style defines modernist painting, its proponents shared a desire to challenge the realist traditions that dominated art education. Beginning in the late 1910s, modernist painting often used geometric shapes and bold colors to probe the American psyche. O'Keeffe threw herself into these experiments, but she was reluctant to share her new work. However, when a friend sent her charcoals to the art dealer Alfred Stieglitz, he became entranced. In 1916, he arranged for a grand exhibition in New York. This marked the beginning of O'Keeffe's career as a popular artist, and a relationship that would lead to marriage in 1924. Marriage didn't diminish O'Keeffe's taste for solitude. She traveled widely to teach and often retreated to paint for months at a time. Whether she was exploring the craggy canyons of Texas, the quiet forests of South Carolina, or the sun-bleached desert of New Mexico, her creative process was based on ritual and close observation. She paid meticulous attention to small details and spent hours mixing paints to create exactly the right colors. When she found the perfect hue, she'd record it in her ever-growing collection of handmade color cards. O'Keeffe also experimented with perspective to celebrate objects that were often overlooked. In Ram's Head with Hollyhock, she places a weathered skull and a delicate flower high above the hills below. This massive skull overshadows the landscape, casting both the skeleton and the mountains in a new, eerie light. The public was captivated by her unique perspective and secretive behavior. She was particularly praised for her massive flower paintings, ranging from fiery poppies to ghostly calla lilies. Stieglitz and other critics of the time were infatuated by Freudian psychology and were quick to link these paintings to female genitalia. But O'Keeffe dismissed such interpretations. She resented the male gaze that dominated the art world and demanded her work be respected for its emotional evocation of the natural world. Eventually, O'Keeffe settled down in New Mexico near one of her favorite artist retreats. In her 70s, her eyesight began to fail, but she continued to mine the landscape's mysteries in new, tactile mediums. O'Keeffe kept creating until her death at 98 and is remembered as the mother of American modernism. Decades on, her work retains its wild energy, and O'Keeffe, her personal mystique. Get to know the life.
All right, so that was the video. What we need that for is we have a reading about Georgia O'Keeffe, and I started to read it out loud in class to point out and highlight some things. So, Georgia O'Keeffe by Joan Didion. Where I was born and where and how I've lived is unimportant, Georgia O'Keeffe told us in the Book of Paintings and Words, published in her 90th year on Earth. She seems to be advising us to forget the beautiful face in the Stieglitz photographs. She appeared to be dismissing the rather condescending romance that attached to her by then, the romance of extreme good looks and advanced age and deliberate isolation. It is what I have done with where I've been that should be of interest. Okay, you want to highlight that because we're pulling quotes. She doesn't really want people to look at her. She doesn't care what they think. She wants them to just see her art. Okay, so we have that. I recall an August afternoon, so there's a shift in here where the author is taking her daughter to see Georgia O'Keeffe's artwork. So just watch the shift. I recall an August afternoon in Chicago in 1973 when I took my daughter, then 7, to see what Georgia O'Keeffe had done with where she had been. One of the vast O'Keeffe Sky Above Clouds canvases floated over the back stairs in the Chicago Art Institute that day, dominating what seemed to be several stories of empty light, and my daughter looked at it once, ran to the landing, and kept on looking. "Who drew it?" she whispered after a while. I told her, "I need to talk to her," she said finally. My daughter was making, that day in Chicago, an entirely unconscious but quite basic assumption about people and the work they do. She was assuming that the glory she saw in the work reflected a glory in its maker, and that the painting was the painter as the poem is the poet, that every choice one made alone, every word chosen or rejected, every brushstroke laid down or not laid down, betrayed one's character. All right, painting was the painter as poem is the poet. There are 2 metaphors in there, saying the painter equals painter and poem equals poet. Style is character. It seems to me that afternoon that I'd rarely seen so instinctive of an application of this familiar principle. And I recall being pleased not only that my daughter responded to style as character, but that it was Georgia O'Keeffe's particular style to which she responded. This was a hard woman who had imposed her 192 square feet of clouds on Chicago. Hardness has not been in our century a quality much admired in women, nor in the past 20 years has it even been in official favor for men. When hardness surfaces in the very old, we tend to transform it into crustiness or eccentricity, some tonic pepperiness to be indulged at a distance. On the evidence of her work and what she has said about it, Georgia O'Keeffe is neither crusty nor eccentric. She is simply a straight shooter, a woman clean of received wisdom and open to what she sees. Okay, I want you to make note of that. She is no nonsense. She says what she thinks and doesn't really care what people think. You'll see this over and over again as we read this. This was a woman who could early on dismiss most of her contemporaries as dreamy and would later single out one she liked as a very poor painter, and then add, apparently by way of softening the judgment, I guess he wasn't a painter at all. He had no courage, and I believe that to create art in one's own world, in any arts, takes courage. And I would mark that she thinks she respects courage and bravery and applied this to her art as well. Okay, so we have that. This is a woman who in 1939 could advise her admirers that they were missing her point, that their appreciation of her famous flowers was merely sentimental. When I paint a red hill, she observed coolly in the catalog for an exhibition that year, you say that it is too bad that I don't always paint flowers. A flower touches almost everyone's heart. A red hill doesn't touch anyone's heart. This was a woman who could describe the genesis of one of her most well-known paintings, the cow skull, red, white, and blue, owned by the Metropolitan, as an act of quite deliberate and derisive orneriness. Okay, she painted this as essentially she was flipping people off. She intended it to, you'll see, she wanted them to notice it, but she also wanted them to know that it was intended to be kind of a thumbing her nose at people. I thought of the city men I'd been seeing in the East, she wrote. They talked so often of writing the great American novel, the great American play, the great American poetry. So as I was painting my cow's head on blue, I thought to myself, I'll make an American painting. They will not think it great with the red stripes down the sides, red, white, and blue, but they will notice it. Okay? Want people to notice. She doesn't care if it's negative noticing. She's trying to get their attention. And she's making fun of people and art and all of that. City men, the men, they. The words crop up again and again as this astonishingly aggressive woman tells us what was on her mind when she was making her astonishingly aggressive paintings. Okay? She was, I'm going to put the word salty. She was salty. She was tough. She was aggressive. Okay? Again, a quality that maybe isn't people's favorite thing, especially in this time frame. It was a city man who stood accused of sentimentalizing her flowers. I made you take time to look at what I saw. And when you took time to really notice my flower, you hung all your associations with flowers on my flower. And you write about my flower as if I think and see what you think and see. And I don't. Okay? And I don't. Imagine those words spoken. And the sound you hear is, don't tread on me. So don't screw with me. Don't mess with me. Best leave me alone. She's not scared of critics or anything else. All right, and that's about where we left off today. So we'll be picking up with this and a couple more pieces in the next day to add information to our quote organizer. And we've written our thesis statement, and that's where we are. Anyway, have a great day.